Greetings, salutations, respect, and love. I am Scott, and you, my dear little knuckleheads. Oh, you've wandered onto the #1 prog rock channel on all of YouTube. It's the Prog Corner. That's according to AI. I didn't make that up, Tim. I'm a humble guy. I never self-gloss. I never self-promote. Oh, wait a second. That's all I do all day long. Hey, everybody, my special guest today is none other than you might recognize him. It's Tim Brennan. He's been a guest on Andy Edwards' program. That's where I first encountered him. He reached out and he had a very interesting proposition for me. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of this thing, Tim, how are you? Good afternoon. Where are you calling from?
I'm good. I'm calling from the northeast of England, a little town called Hartlepool. And it's about an hour south of Newcastle. So people out there probably have heard of Newcastle. You've got a rough idea of where it is. Maybe not.
Yeah. Americans.
Just south of Scotland.
If you're talking to Americans, you're talking to the most geographically challenged peoples on the entire planet. We can, I've seen these little studies shown where they have blank maps and they take them to 100 Americans. Like, okay, fill in country names. And most Americans can only do 3 or 4 countries. It's sad. Well, it's embarrassing. It's pathetic.
Well, in the UK, a lot of people in England, if you ask them where Aberdeen is in Scotland, they might not know where it is. Sorry, everybody in the UK, in England. We weren't really taught about Scottish geography, and that's literally, a piece of chewing gum away from us compared to the great swathes of landscape of the United States. I mean,
and that's so weird. It's like
I don't know where all the states are. I don't know where all the states are. I've got a few. I could imagine. I can guess where a few are. Know where California is on the map. Know where Texas is. Get a bit confused.
Now, you reached out to me with this proposition about what the very first prog song is. But before we divulge this information, what's your background, Tim? Tell my people a little bit about who you are and why are you on the Prog Corner today?
God, I don't know. I don't know.
Because you asked.
So I'm an artist. I've been making art and exhibiting internationally for since the mid 1980s. So I don't know what that is, 40 years or something, 30 plus years. I work in lots of different areas, lots of different ways. So I work with performance, take people for guided walks. I kind of make photographs, I make paintings, make sculptures, not all at the same time. So I've been doing that for a very long time. And I've also been, I was teaching and running art schools for a long time in parallel to that, but I've got out of that now. Finally got out of that a few years ago.
Freedom,
liberation. Yes, absolutely. And because education is another conversation. It's not necessarily that free and expansive world that art schools are not what they used to be. Put it that way. I'll just put it that way. We'll park it over there. So I've been doing that, and I write, and I use a lot of writing in my work. So there you go. Yeah. So that's me. Yeah.
And what's your what is your common link with the prog rock? You're on the Prog Corner today, so you're gonna feel a little bit better than that.
Why the hell am I here? Right. Okay. Yeah. So I got into when I was about 6 or 7. I started to digest I had 2 older brothers, both my brothers, a lot older than me. It's a similar story. So they were 11 and 13 years older than me. Oh, wow. So when I was 7, I heard Dark Side of the Moon, 1973, when it came out. And my brother, my eldest brother, was really into it. So and he had it. So I bought it. Because he was living away, so I bought it. I got into prog really, in 73.
Couple years before me, so I'm guessing you were probably born in 60 or 61.
I was born in 66.
Oh, 66. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah, you
anyway,
said
yeah,
Dark Side. You were 7 when Dark Side came out. Hello.
7 months outside came out, yeah, and then later on, the new wave of British heavy metal got me in 1980. It just got me, and it actually still has me. So this is a Motorhead hat, and
Hey, I'm not hating on that. 1980 was a pivotal year for me.
yeah,
Also, the first time I heard the first Iron Maiden album,
yeah.
it changed everything for me.
Well, I can remember being at school, and I don't want to dive too much, but it could be.
We can talk about whatever we want. It's my channel.
Put it in, right? Brilliant. Thank you, Scott. So I can remember being at school, and there'd been a kind of quite a short mod revival, and really at the same time as Quadrophenia came out, the film Quadrophenia,
The
1979.
film came out in 79.
79, yeah. And
That's perfect timing for the mod revival of the early 80s.
yeah. And I was into the Who, and maybe more of that later. But anyway, I got into the mod revival, as did quite a lot of my friends at school. So we all had Parkers and targets on the back, and all of this sort of very British experience, really. Mods and rockers, like you've said.
We have no idea what that is, by the way.
Scooters and
the only thing Americans know about mods and rockers is if we were Who fans and we bought Quadrophenia and we were scratching our heads like, I don't even understand what this means, but I love this music. So yeah, we don't know nothing about any of that.
But the big thing about the mod revival in '79 in Britain was that it was really a kind of a point at which a mini movement where the post-punk kind of relationship between white rock music and the black kind of reggae came together again after the Clash, if you like, again. So it came with the ska music. So there was a lot of ska that came in. I mean, obviously, ska was big in the mod scene in the '60s as well. Northern Soul,
really.
So it really came in. It really came in again in '79. So we had a lot of the ska.
Yeah, you had the Specials and Selector and Madness and the
Beat, Secret Affair, all of that.
Yeah.
So we were into all of that, and the Jam were kind of in there. They were, or at least aesthetically, image-wise, they were in on that. And then I can remember being at school, and one of the lads, Ian Elliott, said, "Have you heard this?" And it was Bomber. He held up Bomber by Motorhead, the album, and I think it was another guy, either the same lesson or the next lesson in technical drawing. He said, "Have you heard this?" And it was Iron Maiden's first single, "Run to the Hills." Running Free. Sorry.
Yeah.
Running Free, and within about a week and a half, there was a core group of us who'd been mods, not all of them, but a core group of us who suddenly weren't wearing Parkers anymore and had denim jackets and kind of were praying for their hair to grow long, And so yeah, that was it really. That's how that happened. But
it's cool that you can listen to the Jam, the Clash, the Who, all these different things, all converging on our topic today.
Came together. But the thing, and this is important that I say this, is that very soon after then, in 1980, another friend of mine said, "Here, listen to this," and it was the compilation Yesterdays, right? And the first time I heard it, I was like, "Oh, I don't know about this." And he said, "Well, give me a button." And I said, "No, can I listen to it again?" And he went, "No," and he wouldn't let me. So I had to go and find some Yes. So I went and found some Yes and listened to some more Yes. I think somebody gave me a tape or something. And ever since then, I have been following the band Yes. So it was a bit strange because at the time, they came together with the Buggles, and I really loved that album. Drama was my entry point in a way. That was the album that came out when I first got into.
Right, there's two things, like when you look back on a band that you have fond memories of, that you've been involved with for a long time. There's usually two albums, right? The first one was your entry point, right? That first album that you heard by the band. But the second one almost as important, and that's the first album that came out while you're a fan, right? Because now you're anticipating it, you're waiting for it, you go to the record store, you buy it, you drive all the way home, the anticipation's there. That's a pretty memorable and powerful experience.
So that was Drama. That was Drama.
Yeah.
And I've seen them quite a lot of times since then. They're sort of neck and neck with Motorhead. So
that's cool. The two most watched bands by Tim, Motorhead and Yes. Why not? I love it.
I can't reconcile both of them. Not really. I can do a sort of spider diagram, but it's not
kind of, sort of. Hawkwind kind of, sort of helps a little bit, but Hawkwind and Yes don't have a whole lot in common at all.
No, there aren't any links. We play a game over here, me and my friend, called All Roads Lead to Yes.
There you go. I like that game.
And you have you have to find the connection, between what the person gives you and Yes, and you can go, well, there's that, and then there's that, and then there's Yes, and go, okay then.
That's cool. And with as many people that have been in Yes over the years, it's actually pretty easy. It's not that hard. But, let's get back on point. Today we're talking about the very first prog song, and it's real easy for people to point to the very first prog album, right? I mean, pretty much conventional wisdom has us all believing that In the Court of the Crimson King was the very first prog album, even though I put out an episode about 6 months ago called The Origins of Prog, where I list 25 albums that came out before In the Court of the Crimson King, which I think are super progressive. But you can debate that back and forth all day long. You could even go back further. 1967, a whole bunch of real important albums came out in 67 for our beloved genre. Obviously, Sgt. Pepper, the Moody Blues put out Days of Future Past. Procol Harum dropped Whiter Shade of Pale in 67. The Doors' first album, Zombies. That sounds like proto-prog to me. The Who's Sell Out came out in 67. So I always thought of 67 as kind of year zero. But then I get in my inbox a guy named Tim Brennan telling me that you need to go to 66, actually, to find the very first prog song. And, as I was doing my little research, I'm thinking, okay, what about, some of those early prog songs like MacArthur Park or Classical Gas? Those both came out in 1968. You think about some of the big prog epics, the sidelong epics like, I don't know, like The Nice put out with, let me see, I think I pulled it. Yeah.
Well, the Thoughts of Emily Stout.
Longa.
There you go.
Vida Brevis.
Longer. Yeah.
The sidelong epic. Procol Harum's second album had In Held 'Twas an I. 68 was kind of like the incubator, but we're going even further back, aren't we, Tim?
Yeah. So December 66.
66. Let's lead up to 66 because there were some things that happened before December 66. Frank Zappa puts out his first album.
So we've got hang on, I've got a little list here. Sorry, folks. I haven't got it all in my head.
Sounds came out 66. Okay, what do you got, Tim?
So I've got, May 66 is Pet Sounds.
Yeah.
But probably before then, but not put on vinyl, is The End by The Doors, because they had a residency, the London Fog residency, which was February to May 66. And that's when they started to perform, as far as I can find out, started to perform The End. But obviously The End didn't go on to vinyl, wasn't committed to vinyl until 67, right?
Correct.
But we've got that going on the West Coast. And then we've got Pet Sounds May 66. We've got Freak Out for the Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, which I know Andy is big on, as a kind of marker stone, isn't he, for Andy Edwards, as a sort of possible origin of prog. That's June 66. But what we have in December 66 is The Who committing to vinyl a quick one while he's away, which is a 9+ minute, called a mini opera, a rock opera, a mini rock opera. Although I suppose mini is it. I sort of get rid of the mini thing. We can talk about whether it should be mini or not. So it's 9 minutes, and it's got 6 movements to it. And it's very much kind of in the style of an opera, in the sense that it's got this narrative story arc that is about absence. The lover leaves.
What's his name? Herman?
Leaves his.
Where you going, Herman? Get back home.
Yeah, leaves his partner and he goes away. And I think he goes away for about a year or so. And while he's away, his partner, she's very upset. And then there's a remedy that is offered to her, which is to have an encounter, a sexual encounter.
Is that where Ivar the driver comes in?
Ivar the engine driver.
Yeah, yep. Ivar the engine driver. Yeah,
Ivar the engine driver. And this seems to be a positive experience. But then her ex-lover or lover, estranged, gone away, absent lover, King Crimson later on.
That's right. Neil and Jack and me.
Comes back, and of course there's a kind of a problem potentially, but they reconcile it, and then everybody is happy at the end. So it's a kind of happy story at the end, but it's very much like an opera, in that you have a kind of an idea of sadness, even though the Who don't necessarily deliver it in that way. Have an idea of sadness, you have an idea of betrayal, you have a comedy bit, which is, we have a remedy, and Ivor comes in, I'm Ivor, which Keith Moon sings. So each of the bands take different characters as well, like you might have in an opera, different characters on stage singing. I think Entwistle does the remedy bit. And then there's the reconciliation at the end. There's a sort of chant at the end, which I think they all joined in on. And really, before then, there isn't a song that has a kind of narrative arc like an opera.
Yeah, we've seen songs strung together before in a medley style. That's nothing new. But actually having a thread, a common thematic element to tie it all together, that might have been new in '66.
And also the tempo. The tempo is, broadly speaking, it's in 4/4. But there is an aspect where it goes into a kind of kind of, so it's a sort of 2/4. And when they played it live, it sometimes strayed a little bit, and they messed around a little bit with it. They didn't get into sort of, Apocalypse 9/8. Is it 9/8? The end of
there's none of that in this.
You don't get into when prog becomes a style. Which I would say is part of my kind of thinking on this, that when it becomes a style, you really have this idea of time signatures. But most of what prog, the style, has is in a quick one while he's away, apart from the time signatures. So I think it's quite interesting, because you could go through the list of the other things, like the end. Yes, it's long, it's epic. So you got the epic quality to it, By the Doors, the end. But it's very much has that kind of long spoken word interlude, which kind of pulls apart the music. I think it pulls it apart in a good way. I love it actually.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge fan. So
I can play it on.
No dissing the Doors on this channel. Can
play it on a loop, and I never ever get tired of it. But anyway, so I don't think it's a pro. I think it's a kind of proto-prog song. It's got ingredients. I think it's progressive with a small p. I think it's broadening the landscape of what's possible. I think Pet Sounds for me isn't really displaying lots of what prog would do, other than it's technically production wise.
Right, production wise. That's what
Amazing.
everybody points to, right? The
It's amazing, isn't
studio
it?
wizardry of Brian Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, incredible. So in that sense, it's offering that ingredient to all the later iterations of what we love. You know, kind of go through all the bands. You know, certainly in the early '70s, it's kind of using the studio as an instrument. Pet Sounds is doing that a year before Sergeant Pepper's. So there's that. So really, it's a kind of it's a collection of songs that have a kind of cohesive quality to them because of this production, the studio as an instrument. Freak Out is progressive, but I don't think it's prog. I think it's more like a kind of progressive collage. It's building on 20th century orchestral innovations. So you've got music concrète, Varese, and you've got and then Stravinsky, and it's this kind of constant set of collisions, which is really, really interesting. And
it is, and I think people forget that Varese probably was Frank Zappa's #1 influence, which is weird because you look at all the different influences in his music, from doo-wop to metal and everything in between, and it's Varese's music that probably resonates the most. And when you listen to him, and Zappa knew exactly what was going on. He knew about prog. He knew what prog rock was. He knew Yes. He knew Genesis. He knew Emerson, Lake and Palmer. He knew all those bands inside and out, and he liked them. But he didn't want to be like them because he was Frank Zappa. He was going to do his own thing.
And of course,
that's why Freak Out shines.
And of course, Freak Out is before Yes and LP and Genesis. But yeah, he's really pushing things open from a 20th century contemporary music and colliding that with rock music, I would say.
Yeah.
Whereas the Who, in a quick one, are taking opera and smashing it into rock music. So you could say there's a sort of parallel thing, isn't there? There, you know, between the two things. But I think Townshend is doing something different in that. And
I agree, and that's why when I put the 10 brains that invented prog rock together, I had to put Pete Townshend on there. And honestly, I wasn't even thinking about a quick one or the Who Sellout. I, of course, was just thinking Quadrophenia and Tommy. But if you look at the Who, you look at where they went in 1965, you know, My Generation, all that R&B inflected stuff. That's not for me, man. That's not my kind of music. I don't care for it. I don't like it. I think it's terrible. But then something magical happens on that second album. What in the world? The band took a giant leap from album #1 to album #2. Yeah. And I think it's because, you know, in 65, who was thinking about the album, right? The album was just something you put songs on and you sold as a collection of songs. But by the time we get to 66, that's all changing with Revolver, Pet Sounds, Freak Out. The album is starting to become a piece of art all by itself. And Pete Townshend picked up on that real quick. Talk to me a little bit about Kit Lambert's influence on here, because apparently he was the one that kind of wanted this album to be different than the first album, right?
Yeah, I think Kit had this idea that I think that he recognized in Townshend somebody who wanted to break open form and find new forms. And I think before we get to Kit Lambert, I think a little bit on Townshend's background, because if that's okay. So in 61, Pete Townshend enrolls in Ealing School of Art. So he goes to art school, right? This is my art school bit now here, right? So he goes to art school, and his parents had been musicians, or were musicians, in fact. They'd been in the RAF, and his dad was in an RAF band called the Squadronaires, and his mum was a singer. I think she also sang in that band. She sang in other bands as well. So he had all that kicking around in his background every day at home, probably. But he decides that he's going to go to art school. Now, why would he go to art school? Probably because art schools were these places you could go to and really kick about ideas in whatever kind of form you wanted to. You weren't restricted to drawing and painting. You would do some of that. And some art schools were more, if you like, liberal and open. This is literally only kind of a decade and a bit after the Second World War. So there was this open quality. If you went to art school, you could do stuff. You could do nothing, but you could also do loads of stuff. And he while he was at Ealing School of Art, there was a lecture by a German emigre artist who'd left during the war. He'd left Germany as a child, and called Gustav Metzger. And Gustav Metzger had he had written and published, if you like, this manifesto in 1959, 2 years before, called the Destruction in Art Manifesto, right? So a manifesto for auto-destructive art, right? So the idea that art could collapse in on itself and destroy itself. So he would do these demonstrations where he would, in public, where he would paint with acid and the canvas would fall apart, right? Nice. Stuff like that. And he would do it out on the street whilst wearing a gas mask. And, you know, it's kind of, in a way, at the time, it was sort of sinister and upsetting and disruptive. So he gave this lecture at Ealing School of Art, and Townshend was quite taken with it. And the lecture was also titled Auto-Creative Art. So he had auto-destructive art and auto-creative art. And the auto-creative bit was about art being able to make itself. It was a kind of idea that machine technology could start to make works of art. Well, look where we are now, right? See, in the world of AI, we are now. Where
we are probably less than 5 years away from the so-called singularity.
Well, there you go. Excellent.
So I'm excited.
So Metzger's auto-creative art started to arrive at working with liquid crystal light installations, and his testing ground would be kind of rock music. So, you know, he worked some of these light installations with Cream, and I think also with The Who and other bands as well. So you got these two things. You got auto-destruction, auto-creation. And I think that the smashing of the guitars, you know... I was
just going to say, that sounds like auto-destruction.
You know, on one level, the shorthand that has been put around, and I think Townshend sort of used it sometimes, depending on who he's talking to, is that they were playing in a club, I think it was 100 Club in London, and he's Rickenbacker guitar went into the ceiling. So, you know, it seemed like a good idea to smash up the guitar, and that's where it came to. But he also says that Gustav Metzger was an absolutely huge mentor for him, a hugely important figure in his development. So that the destruction was really part of that trajectory that was in contemporary art, coming into rock and roll, rock music, the birth of rock music, really.
And you also got to keep in mind that Pete Townshend's memory is not 100% reliable. He apparently forgets that he credited SF Sorrow and the Pretty Things. I guess leading up to Tommy's release, he was all about the Pretty Things. Yeah, they got this concept album, this rock opera. A couple years later, he's forgotten all about that, and I've never even heard the Pretty Things. What are you talking about? I ripped them off. So his memory's not 100% reliable.
But we do know he went to Ealing School of Art, and we do know that Mr. Metzger did this thing, and that it probably was quite a big influence, really.
I'm sure.
So Kit Lambert, right? So Kit Lambert is from a different class altogether. So high, and I think he could see in Townshend that there was somebody who could really kind of like use these ideas of breaking open form and creating something new, to really kind of to push things forward. I mean, it was much more a term then was about progression, and modernism being about one step after the other. You know, we're developing forwards towards some sort of utopia over there. You know, possibly we're not, but anyway.
That's the idea, anyway.
So I think that there's this idea of high art. Kit Lambert would have been really pushing this idea of high art being opera being high art, and how could one tackle with that? So, and I think then the auto-destruction, the destruction element, and high art is how can we bring these two things together? But I think it was probably Townshend just had somebody around him to be able to say, you know, go for it, and we'll back it, and let's go for it. I don't know enough, and maybe, you know, people listening to this might know way more.
Oh, my people know stuff, man. It's amazing how smart my audience is.
I'm one of your people, right? I've been watching you.
There you go.
Years now. So I think, you know, there'll be like there might be other ideas as to what Kit's influence was in relation to opera. Am I right, everybody? I don't know. Say it to us in the chat or whatever. Right. Didn't Kit have a relationship to opera somewhere along the line? I'm sure he had some sort of. There was something to do with an interest in opera.
He seems like that kind of guy, though. Just, you know, reading his words, looking at pictures of him, he seems like that guy would be in the opera with the box, with the opera glasses, you know, checking everything out. Oh, Madame Butterfly! Oh, this is so great! I love Puccini.
I'd be there with you, actually, without being able to back it up. I would say he would be into the highfalutin kind of.
He looked the part. He looked the part.
Territory of opera and operetta.
What's funny about a quick one is apparently Pete Townshend had been talking about doing some kind of rock opera for a while. I was reading there was something in the works called Quad, which predates a quick one in the Who sellout. Never materialized, but I guess Pete and Kit Lambert had been talking about doing long form structures for a while before it finally materialized.
Yeah. I only know as much as that. So it's been talked about, and then we arrive at a quick one while he's away, and maybe, you know, it was like they were sending out a probe. You know, it's like, well, let's do one that is kind of, let's compress it down to all it needs to be, the bare bones.
The trial run.
Let's get it to that, and let's see what happens. You know, let's see how it lands in amongst the other songs in the set.
Yeah, and you know, the set itself, I think a quick one was added at the last minute. They had 9 minutes they wanted to fill on the album, apparently. So Decca came to the boys and said, you know, we need to do something about that. But you know, the first 3 Who albums did not sell well in the U.S., and I'm wondering about you know, maybe their label over here. Decca had gotten absorbed by MCA America like in '62 or something. And I don't think MCA had any idea what to do with rock bands. I don't think the label here in the States knew anything about rock and roll. They were all about country and classical and easy listening and stuff. And then, you know, they get bands like the Who on their hands. Like, we don't know how to deal with this band. We can't market them. We don't know how to market them. But it seems like all of a sudden in '69 they got smart and they figured it out, because Tommy sold very, very well. But those first 3 Who albums didn't sell doodle squat.
Yeah, I think they sent the tapes back, didn't they? Back to London, saying these tapes, man, for, I think it's for Anywhere. any way, anyhow, anywhere. I think they sent the tapes back to London saying there's something going wrong with these tapes, man. They're all warped or whatever it is. So, no, it's supposed to sound like that.
I would never trust anyone from Decca. Ever since that January 1962, the Beatles go in and do a 15-song edition for Decca, and the two main dudes are like, "Nah, they're terrible. They'll never make it in the music business. So never listen to a label guy. They don't know what they're talking about." We're with Tim Brennan today, and we are talking about the very first prog rock song. I kind of wanted to disagree with you about a quick one, but there's a whole lot of validity there as far as trying to pinpoint, the earliest song, because you can look at these albums, right? They're, like Pet Sounds and Revolver were progressive sounding, but there wasn't like one song you could pick off Revolver and say, that's where prog started. You don't really have that. It's the overall experience of, George Martin or, Pet Sounds with the, what's his name doing his magic over there in the US, and, John Paul, Ringo, and George doing their magic with the George Martin in the UK, the studio as part of the band almost, right? That was a whole different idea, because when you're dealing with crappy equipment, I'm not inviting that crappy 4-track tape machine into my band. They're not a part of my band, but as soon as we get into 8-track and 16-track recording consoles, okay, you can join my band now. You don't suck anymore.
But the idea of it being prog is, I kind of think of prog as a kind of style.
Yeah.
It comes that sort of gets set. I mean, it's broad enough for there to be innovation inside it. But when I think of prog, I think of albums, songs, epic songs that are modular.
Right.
So they have these different sections to them that flow together. I think of them having a kind of some sort of relationship to orchestral classical music somewhere, somehow.
Absolutely.
Whether
you touched on one of the main features right there, and that is structure, right? Yeah. You can look at Close to the Edge and say that's sonata form. Or you can look at some other tracks and say that's the way a symphony is built. Okay, the first movement goes like this, the second movement goes like that. Yeah. That's the way classical music's organized. And I loved it when rock bands were doing that. And I'm listening to modern prog, Tim. I don't hear a whole lot of that classical influence like I used to.
Right, I agree with you. And that's where with modern prog, I have to work quite hard to find its direct relationship to that kind of classic era of prog, where it becomes prog. And I guess, if the Who provide that template in that song, and I'm not saying that every band was then influenced by the Who, but it's out there and it's there. Wow. Then as a style, I think it really becomes, what would the word be? It's kind of codified, or it becomes kind of rubber stamped, if you like.
I like codified too.
With Crimson. With that first Crimson album, which it's probably not the first prog album. I would have an idea, maybe The Thoughts of Emily Stavjak could be the first prog album, but that's a different debate, isn't it? But I think definitely that the Crimson Art Court, the Crimson King, it's like, this is it. This is the rubber stamp. Now it's codified as a style, and it's got epic. It's got the epic. It's got pastoral, sort of from an English tradition of the pastoral of Vaughan Williams. It's got different time signatures, so it's kind of colliding different. It's bringing that into the rock format. It's got movements. It's got these kind of narrative. So you might have multiple songs in the album, but within each song there's a sort of narrative going on. Yeah. And then with Close to the Edge, there isn't necessarily a narrative going on, because it's this kind of imagist poetry that Anderson, he probably wasn't thinking I'm writing imagist poetry, but it fits within that tradition, you know, where he's not.
I think John Anderson knew exactly what he was
Okay.
doing. I don't take that as lightly as a lot of people. I find John Anderson's lyrics to be absolute genius. I don't care what anybody says. You know, it's like, I don't like Monet or I don't like Picasso because it doesn't look like what I'm seeing out my window. I don't like John Anderson's lyrics because I got to think about them.
I agree. Well, my favorite John Anderson lyrics, and I'm veering off now, but I can't help it. My favorite John Anderson lyrics are the ones that are those sort of imagist ones, where I'm not actually receiving a kind of beginning, middle, and an end story or a kind of message that I'm going to apply to my life directly, you know. And I think later on, John, a lot of people like the latter lyrics, but they can kind of tell a story, and I'm less interested in them. I'm much more interested in Tales from Topographic Oceans, Relayer, Going Back in Time, then Close to the Edge, the song Awaken, you know, and then some of the lyric in Tomato, a little bit, Silent Wings of Freedom, and you know, and then I think it later when he comes back to Yes, I think it does change. I think there is a change in the lyrics. Different story, isn't it? I'm sorry.
It is different, and honestly, you know, people say it's not as good, but name a band that was going strong in the 70s.
Oh, no.
Their best material was in the 90s or the 2000s. That's, you know, if Zeppelin hadn't have broken up in 1980, I guarantee you all their best albums would still have been in the 70s. It's just the way it is, man. I mean, you don't write your best stuff when you're 50 and 60 years old. You write your best stuff in your 20s.
I think it's true. I think that is true within prog.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to Motorhead, I think some of their strongest albums were towards.
Oh yeah, there's going to be exceptions to every rule, but I think in general there's something about young man energy, and I don't mean to be sexist here. It's just the fact that 99% of all prog musicians were men. I certainly don't want to, you know, forget about the beautiful women who helped build our beloved genre. I've had Annie Haslam on the program, so far be it for me to ever diss any of our female proggers. But, you know, it's been a boys' club for a very long time. And, you know, maybe that's part of the problem. You know, maybe that's something we need to look at is elevating the women in our beloved genre who are out there doing some great, great stuff. And, you know, we don't need it to be a boys' club anymore. Absolutely not.
I agree. You know, I hope you didn't think that I was saying it should be.
No, I did. I went there, and I got to watch myself because every time I say something, you know, slightly controversial, man, they come at me. Tim, they come at. I know the channel's doing well when I got to watch every single word I say because it's going to come back at me. I can't make one mistake without, you know, 20 people at me in the comments. It's like, oh, that came out in 65, not 66. And like, oh man, I'm sorry. I'm not, you know, I'm not Wikipedia. I'm just a dude, you know, I'm just a dude talking to y'all on the internet here. And we've been talking about what the very first prog song is. Hey guys, let me know in the comments what you think the very first prog song is. Not an album. So I don't want to hear Revolver. I don't want to hear Sgt. Pepper's. I don't want to hear Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Honestly, I don't even think I want to hear anything from Days of Future Past because you're looking at the album. I'm talking about songs. The first prog song, is it a quick one by The Who from December 1966?
I think it is, yeah.
It very well might be, boys and girls. Oh, Tim, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. This was a cool topic. I enjoyed this.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So what's next for you? What are you up to now?
So I've just finished writing an ebook on it's called Is Everybody In? Let the Ceremony Begin. The Hidden History of Spoken Word in Rock. It's a short book. It kind of, you go through it really quickly. It's about, I don't know, 30,000 words. It's like quite short, you know, and you can build a playlist out of it, and it talks
Wow.
about the hidden history of spoken,
I love it.
in that. So that'll be on my coffee shop, and it'll be, I don't know, what's £3 now? I don't know.
Man, I don't know, like $4.50, something like that.
$4.50.
Yeah.
So I'm independent. I like being independent.
Yeah.
So I'm just finishing that off, and we're working on a new set of tracks for the band that I'm in, which is it uses a lot of spoken word as well, called Gruppen. And so yeah, I mean, you know, I've got lots of stuff, doing a lot of writing, and there'll be some performances coming up as well.
Awesome.
So that's me. Yeah, and you can find me on.
Yeah, where can we find you?
If you want to find me, you can find me on timbrennanartist.co.uk.
Okay.
timbrennanartist.co.uk. And there's all the links are on there. So my Ko-Fi shop is on there, but my link to my Ko-Fi shop is also, I'll give you it. Sorry, it's almost the same. It is Ko-Fi ko-fi.com//Tim Brennan Artist. So,
oh man, I'm in trouble. Do me a favor, Tim. I'll be posting this tomorrow. So when this video actually gets published, do me a favor, put that in a comment.
Yeah, I'll
pin the comment so that people can actually go to it. Because if their brains work like mine, which is very poorly and full of a lot of dyslexic thoughts and whatnot. I'm so dyslexic, I can't even say dyslexia. I mean, that's bad. That's really bad. But, you know, they might have a little bit of trouble. So put a comment down. I'll pin the comment. People can get a hold of you that way. It's Tim Brennan, everybody. We've been talking about the very first prog rock song. You know, I think it's more open for debate than the first prog album. So, because like I said, conventional wisdom is landed on In the Court of the Crimson King, and that's it. We can't argue with that. That's, that's undisputed conventional wisdom now. But the first prog song is certainly a little more divisive, more up to debate. So this was a cool episode, Tim. Thank you so much. I love you. Peace in the Middle East, free Tibet, free Ukraine, free your mind, free Willie. God save the king, Tim. Oh, we're going to save that king. Oh, that king's going to come to Ohio. Oh, come on, Chucky, let's go. Oh, Stanley Kubrick likes you. Oh, but I don't think Chucky likes you. Oh, we're going to do spells and incantations once you get here. My pastor's waiting for you, King Chucky. Oh, yeah, he is. You know who else is waiting for you? Rattlesnakes are waiting for you. Oh, no, King Chucky. Look out. Oh, no.
There it is.
Keep falling. Oh, no, he's going to get... Oh, boys and girls, I'll see you Sunday when my special guest is going to be Emerald City Council. Their very first appearance as a whole group is going to be Sunday on the show, leading up to their very first live performance Tuesday night in Beebe, Arkansas. It's free, so if you're anywhere near Arkansas, go check them out. I love Emerald City Council. Brent Bristow and the boys going to be here Sunday. I love you. Peace.